You are tuned into another episode of The Locker Room alongside Jack Sullivan. I'm Sam Pierce. We got to open up the show with what we saw last night from Monday Night Football. It was supposed to be a huge game, a game that was really going to determine a lot for the AFC, possibly the number one seed is going to, whoever won was kind of going to be in the driver's race for number one seed. But all of that got put on hold when a player for the Bills unfortunately went under cardiac arrest. Damar Hamlin went to Pitt. A close friend of mine that I grew up with played football with him at Pitt and was a very close friend of his. He's a good dude. All around, all reports, everything you hear, he's just a naturally good dude. And he went to tackle T. Higgins. Looked like got hit in the chest. He got up, went out, and they had to, resuscitate him for about 8-9 minutes, giving CPR and all those things, and rush him to the hospital. He's still in critical condition right now, as we are filming this episode, and hopefully we get some good news soon. But as a football player, I can tell you, Jack, that that's something that's very difficult to deal with. It's hard to deal with any significant injury and get back to playing like we always have to. But I think the right call was made. There was no way that they could continue to play a football game after basically seeing him dead on the floor for 9 minutes. Because you got to understand, if they're doing CPR and he's not breathing, they saw him not breathing for almost 10 minutes. There's no way you can play a football game after that. Kudos to the coaches or whoever was involved with the decision for not playing the game.
Yeah, that was a good move by the NFL, and the coverage of it was tough to watch. Like you said, you're the football player. I'm not the football player, but I think as a human being, and I think Ryan Karp said it best last night and on SVP and SportsCenter, this wasn't about a football player. This was about a man. This was about the family. This was about his friends. He's a cousin. He's a son. He's a brother. It's a huge deal. They got it done. They did it right. Like you said, the NFL canceling the game. Prayers to him, prayers to his family. That was a scary moment. Just, you would never want to see anybody go through that ever. So I think you nail on the head that he is, like you said, a good person. His charity got over $3 million in donations overnight, which is incredible by a community. That's the Buffalo community. That's people loving him. That's just people that understand that this is a scary moment. You never know what's going to happen. And, prayers to him. And like you said, hopefully we get good news these next couple days in Cincinnati that he's going to be all right.
Yeah. And that's all you can hope for. Again, every Ryan Clark, Booger McFarland, guys who play football, nobody's seen anything like this. There is no manual on how to deal with something like this as a player, as a commentator, as a person. I think Ryan Clark had said at one point, like, we weren't prepared to see that last night. Like, we weren't. And that's just the bottom line. Nobody was prepared for that. We're expecting a great game, and now we have to worry about life or death. And it just goes to show you that nothing is promised. And we put a lot on. They put a lot on the line as professional athletes, as football players in general, and just prayers up to Hamlin, to everybody involved in Buffalo, back in Pittsburgh. We're pulling for the young man. But Jack, the playoffs are approaching. Outside of the last night's game, we've got a lot going on in the NFL right now. And a team, I said, they get hot. And I said they were figuring it out weeks ago. I said those young receivers are figuring it out. They're getting it together. The Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to find themselves in the playoffs. I think they beat the Lions on Sunday Night Football in Lambeau. I mean, they're rolling. They won the whole month of December, and it's because they finally found it. See, everybody's used to the Packers just being great and dominant from the rip. Well, this was a younger team that was supposed to be led by the defense in the running game. Well, the defense was subpar to start the season, and the running game was a little bit iffy, and Rodgers didn't have that connection with his receivers. But what have we seen since then? The defense has finally arrived. All that talent that they drafted and stockpiled, it's finally arrived. They're clicking on all cylinders. They're taking the ball away at a higher rate than they ever have. And Aaron Rodgers finally has that rapport with his receivers. And now you're seeing the deep shots, Jack. You're seeing them take chances and stuff again, but also still leaning on the running game. And that's making them a very well-rounded team. And as a Giants fan, you don't want to see those teams who get hot and squeak in the playoffs. You got 2 Super Bowls because of that. It's not, I really think the underdog role is better for Aaron. I don't think he's a great front runner. Although he's a little arrogant and this, that, and the third, I don't think he's a great front runner. He's not great as number 1 seed or somebody like that. This is more his style. He's playing free. There's nothing to lose. They weren't supposed to be here right now at this point. So, man, I think we're gearing up for a crazy playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of just that 1-7 spot in the NFC has so many scenarios that can happen.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, like you said, it's the Packers have crawled all the way back just to get in playoff contention. But you can't sleep on the Lions either.
You can't.
It's a gritty team, and Jamal Williams, like second most rushing touchdowns in the season. He's insane. And my favorite thing about him is that he'll get off the field and he just wants to go play Pokemon. Like he's just that kind of guy. Dan Campbell, he's like he's one of his own. He is one of a kind.
I love him.
I love him too. I think he's that culture that he brings. And Jared Goff is playing incredible. He's finding his receivers really well. He's actually having really good red zone production. And they're a scary team. Just last week alone, or Swift having a reception touchdown and a rushing touchdown. He's finally finding his groove. Not every week is going to be like that. And it's going to be the same thing with the Giants. They're not going to play the Colts every single week. So I think with the NFC is like, who's actually going to step up? Who's going to get the luck on their side? Because the Eagles, without Jalen Hurts, they're 0-2 without him. The Cowboys, they're an iffy team.
They're the Cowboys.
we don't know what we're going to get. The 49ers, is Brock Purdy really going to bring this team into a Super Bowl? You saw flashes against the Raiders. He was throwing passes across his body that he shouldn't have. Is the decision making there? Is that the guy you want leading your team? Right now, they love him. Everyone loves Brock Purdy. They got the best running. They have the best running back in the league right now. The fact that Christian McCaffrey. Listen to me. The fact that Christian McCaffrey's not a Pro Bowler is nuts. Listen.
He doesn't have Pro Bowl stats, Jack. He doesn't.
Okay.
You can't be good for 6 games out the year and say you're a Pro Bowler just because of what you've done. He hasn't not been that good this year. And he hasn't even been the bell cow for San Fran. To be honest, since he's been there. He split carries with it. He splits carries. Like he's good. He's still great. He's why would he be a Pro Bowler? Why? He's not even top 5 in rushing. What do you mean? Can't be a Pro Bowl running back.
All-purpose yards though. That doesn't matter.
His all-purpose yards are solid. Still not that great. Doesn't make me. I still think he's perfect for that scheme. I think it'll be better for them, especially next year. But no, he's a good running back. He is not the best running back in the league. You cut it out. You cut that out. Holy recency bias, Batman. No. Batman. Actually, that might not even be recency bias. You're hanging on to the past. You're thinking of Panthers CMC like 3 years ago. He ain't been the best running back in a while. I'll tell you that for sure. Nah. He hasn't been the best running back in years. But yeah, like you said, the NFC picture is it's a doozy right now. And honestly, I think anybody can win it. Anybody can win the NFC right now. I can make a case that all 7 teams that get in the playoffs can get to the Super Bowl. Some are less likely than others. I don't believe in the Buccaneers, even though they clinched against the Panthers. I don't believe in them. I think they're going home. But again, it's still Tom Brady. It's still Mike Evans. Would you be surprised if they made a run? I'd be a little bit, but it is Tom Brady, So I love that. I think we have so much parity going into the playoffs. I think that's just going to make for an epic postseason.
Yeah, I think with the Bucs, their defense is the ones that are really coming together. True. Tom Brady's going to be Tom Brady, and the offense still needs to figure things out. Mike Evans is an absolute stud, putting up legendary numbers throughout 9 seasons. He's just that guy, you know.
100%.
It does help that you've had Brady for the past couple of years, but he was still doing that before him.
Always, he's had 1,000 yards every year.
Yeah,
Or Brady.
it doesn't matter who's behind; he's going to get his yards. I think with Buccaneers, if I'm really looking at it, that division stinks, man.
Awful.
It's horrible. But that last game, I think Panthers were really hungry. Buccaneers wanted it too. It's not coaching getting them there. It's, again, you have Brady and you have that defense. So, and I think it's those types of players that when you have veterans and you have guys that have been there, that's what's going to lead you. They have the mindset toward the end of the season like this. And they've had this extra game for the last 1 or 2 years. And it's like, all right, hey guys, we have an extra time to really step up our game. Or if you're way ahead of the game, you get to see more production out of different players to see what you could have for next season. And I hope that's what a lot of teams do that are in the playoffs. And I'm just like you said, as a Giants fan, I'm seeing this as don't play Saquon. Like, please don't risk him getting hurt. Don't risk all these other guys getting hurt. And I think it's gonna stink to like, it's gonna be week 17 game. It's gonna be guys, Matt Breida in the backfield with Tyrod Taylor giving him the handoff.
I think that needs to also be the course of action too. Again, congratulations on the Giants making the playoffs. My Jets were eliminated. I am not upset though, because well, you can call it what you want. I mean, y'all still won 2 more games than us, and we stink. That's neither here nor there, and we don't have a quarterback. But don't worry, Derek Carr will be on his way next year. Or in my real dreams, Lamar Jackson.
See, that's
on, Lamar. They don't want to pay you, Lamar. We got you. We'll pay you whatever you want.
I was going to ask you that.
Is it contenders?
I feel like if you can be, I feel like you guys can be contenders with a quarterback. I'm with you. I was saying,
we're 10-11 win team with Jimmy G, easily. You see some of the games Mike White lost. All these one possession close ass games. Even Zach Wilson, outside of Patriots losses in that last one. Oh man, just give us somebody, literally somebody, and we'll be fine. But I'm not mad. I'm honestly not mad. We had a lot of injuries. I still think we're ahead of schedule, like you guys are. I think next year is really the year for y'all. I think y'all are probably going home round 1 most likely, but it's okay because I think next year y'all weren't supposed to make the playoffs this year. This is why Daboll's coach of the year, because that roster is not playoff worthy. It's not. Between him and him going out and getting Wink to be your DC was one of the most underrated moves. I remember I couldn't believe he was fired from Baltimore. He's a great defensive coordinator, and I think that's shown. Y'all defenses have really carried y'all, even with a lot of injuries. But yeah, Jack, we'll be tuned in this playoffs. I think we are going to see some upsets. I think somebody who we really love is going to end up going home early. I think we got to wait and see. But the playoffs of college football had begun, and we got a natty, Jack. The goddamn Horned Frogs. The goddamn Horned Frogs, Jack. I cannot believe that Michigan went out there and laid an egg like that and still almost won, even though they just did not deserve to win. Sloppy football. They played their worst game that I've ever seen. 2 pick sixes by JJ. He just doesn't even do that. If he doesn't throw those 2 pick sixes, they win. The big plays they gave up. I had no problem with TCU scoring, but I just felt like they kind of got outside themselves. The moment got too big. And I hated to see it because I had them picked. I had them versus Georgia in the Natty. And so I hate to see that by Michigan, but hey, man, congrats TCU showing that, hey, we don't need no stinking expansion. We don't need all this extra. You either up your level of play and you get there. Who would have ever thought TCU? They weren't even ranked coming into the season. They're in the national championship. Stop complaining other conferences and other teams outside of the SEC and Big Ten and shut up and go out there and play. That's what TCU has shown us. And I love me some Max Duggan. He's a gamer. He's a winner. Not an NFL quarterback by any means, but he's a gamer. He's a winner. He's a Tebow. That's what he reminds me of. I can get behind that kid.
Yeah, I can too. It's a good comparison with Tebow. It's the level of play around the big moments is what I really like about Duggan. He puts his body on the line, cares about his teammates. That's all he cares about. And something else I really like about this team is that they're really resilient. They lost to Kansas State, in the championship game, and you just saw the emotion from Duggan on the stand, and you're thinking, there's no way this kid loses again. There's just no way. The heart he just had, and luckily they got in, which is great. You know, there were things fell into place. They got to play in the CFP, and he delivered. Was a lot of that Michigan sloppy play? Absolutely. Was that probably a targeting play at the end?
But I don't mind not calling it.
It is what it is. People miss stuff all the time, and that's a real it's a hard thing to call.
That young man would have had to miss the national championship. I think they made the right call.
The resilience of TC is just incredible. So I had a good time watching that. Peach Bowl. That game was ridiculous.
How do we have two back? I think these are the two best college football playoff games we've ever had. Like that's the first round. I've never seen it.
I'm with you. I've never been I shouldn't say I'm not a college football fan, because obviously right there I am. But that's the extent of it. I've seen Notre Dame lose by 40 in the college football playoff. I've seen teams get blown out. I've seen teams get blown out and not produce a good highlight worthy game. These games were ridiculous. And the
epic, man.
And the fact that Ohio State lost when the ball dropped, that's just you can't make that up.
I said how, and it literally synced up. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching it, and I could not believe what I was seeing, and it was amazing to see. And it's just such an epic game, Jack. I mean, Stetson Bennett brings him back. I thought C.J. Stroud played phenomenal. I think he helped his draft case so much. He finally stopped acting like a statue and moved. He acts like he can't move. Yeah, he's athletic. And quite frankly, Jack, he's black. You can run. I get it. You don't want to be the stereotype. I get it, CJ. Use your legs. Thank you. Because when he started using his legs, he was unstoppable. Marvin Harrison Jr., good Lord, he's the best receiver. I hate that he has to come back for another year. He's the best receiver. And I think if he doesn't get hurt, they win. I do. He missed the entire fourth quarter. I don't think there's a way in hell they lose that game if he's there, because they had no answer for him. There's nothing they could do. And in the third quarter, what they tried to do is they started doubling him, but then the other, I think it's Ebu something, I forget his name, the second Ohio State receiver. I'm terrible. I forget his name. I forget how to pronounce it. But he started eating because he was getting all the single coverage. I don't think Georgia had an answer. I think Ohio State had him figured out until Marvin went down.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. Is there were two big things that happened in that game that really, really happened. Stetson Bennett getting him there alone was one thing, but the two biggest things: one, Marvin Harrison getting hurt in the end, getting hit in the head. Athletic trainers want to give him his helmet back. He said he was fine, but he wasn't really speaking. He was kind of wobbly. He was not great. That was a bad hit, not a targeting call. Two, Kirby Smart's toward the middle of the fourth quarter. Kirby Smart's timeout on that fourth down conversion for Ohio State when they faked that punt and they got the first down and he called timeout. That was one of the biggest plays there because he knew that formation was going to happen, and he's seen it before a lot in the SEC. Talked about it post game, but he was like, "Yeah, we've seen that all the time with teams try to pull that off. Ohio State tries pulling it off, and they do." So he tried calling timeout and got it. They have to punt. The very next play, Stetson Bennett throws that 76-yard touchdown. That was the play. That is what turned it all around. So that is where you see Kirby Smart won him a game. Stetson Bennett, 25-year-old Stetson Bennett, just beating up on a bunch of 19, 18-year-olds.
That man's 30, Jack.
Jeez, man.
He's our age, bro. What are you doing, Stet? But I loved it. He showed up and he showed out. Georgia's defense was All I know is I think they will dominate TCU, Jack. I do. I think Cinderella's run out in college football, Jack. The clock hits 12. I think Georgia wins it, and this is the beginning of the Kirby dynasty.
Yep.
They're going to become the standard. They'll be on the same level as Bama. When you win back to back, you're a dynasty. In college football, it just doesn't happen. It hasn't happened since Bama. I think back in 2012. So, man, I think it is going to be a good game. I see Georgia pulling away in the third, fourth quarter, end up winning it by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see. You know, it's just good to see TCU represented there. But
love parody.
we do.
Time for our favorite time of the show.
Hey yo, what the?
It's the favorite segment, Jack, and I didn't think about what I would do, but I came down to it with I told you, I told you, I told you, I told you, I told all of you. The Nets just won their 12th straight game. I told you, I told you, I told you. They got a real coach in there, and now look at them. All of a sudden, they're really good. Oh, yeah, because they have a lot of talent on that roster. I said, let's not act like that roster isn't really good. They just needed a real coach. And would you look at that? 12 in a row, Kevin Durant playing some of the best basketball I've seen him play on both ends of the floor. I think that's what's been missed. Defensive Golden State Kevin Durant is back. It's back. He's back. He's been phenomenal. I said Ben Simmons has to get his footing. He ain't played in over a year. He's on a new team. He's got to figure some things out. Oh, it looks like he's figuring some things out, Jack. And Kyrie Irving, no matter what you think of him, no matter what you feel about him, I don't always like some of the things he does and say. He's a bucket. And at the end of the day, it's about buckets. TJ Warren, Bubble TJ is back. They got Joe Harris. They got Seth. I knew the Nets were going to get it going. They're up to the second seed in the East. I wonder who predicted that. I said my Celtics are the best, and we are, but they're right there. Nobody wants to see them. I promise you, nobody wants to see them. Kudos to Jacque Vaughn for doing a great job.
Yeah, Kyrie's been out of his mind. That has been the one thing I've noticed, and out of his mind in the good way for once. That's what I've noticed about your Nets. Sorry, the Nets, and not your Nets, but your prediction.
I'm a Kevin Durant fan. You know, I am a Kevin Durant fan. I will say.
Kyrie Irving he's been incredible. The putback dunk that he had Monday night was incredible. That was insane. And they have a lot of role players that are doing really well, like Yuto Watanabe. Like he's shooting the ball very well. Nick Claxton is coming into his role. Those guys are doing their. I said he's role. I never said he was a good player. He's doing his role. He's not. He's.
I just hate him.
Okay.
You're right. I just hate him. I'm sorry. I hate him. He's
okay. He's getting into his. He's in his role. Get rebounds. Get the ball to Kevin. Get out of the way. Yeah. So the Nets are a very, very scary team. My AO this week. Crazy day yesterday. Monday, Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. LSU dominates Purdue. I guess one half of that AO is Drew Brees. What are you doing? What are you doing to help Purdue? It was a bad day. It was a bad day to be a Purdue fan. Purdue lost to Rutgers as a number 1 AP top 25 team. They get smacked by LSU. But my real AO is this. Former Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly. What you doing eating those Cheez-Its? Don't be eating Cheez-Its off a turf. Don't do that. Don't do that, because to me that's so nasty. What's even nastier is that we don't know the chain of events, is that one of his players did a freaking snow angel in the Cheez-Its and then he ate it, or vice versa. Either way, it's gross. I love Cheez-Its. I can't eat Cheez-Its for like a year now. That's so nasty. Don't eat it off the ground. Anything off the ground. The 5-second rule may apply. But the fact that you went a scoop a handful on national television and threw it on the ground, Brian Kelly, you are disgusting. That is the weirdest thing. That the class of LSU didn't exist last night. They're jumping all over the place, eating Cheez-Its on the ground, taunting players after they get hurt. That was ridiculous. I am disappointed in LSU. Brian Kelly, you are gross. That is my AO. What the?
Well, that was a very soft take you just made right there. As a football guy, I love it. That's what you do. You win a bowl game, you celebrate. If it's the
bowl game doesn't mean anything. A bowl game doesn't mean anything.
A bowl game does mean something. See, the college football playoff has nullified a lot of the bowl games, and people forget what they're really about. One, your team gets to go out there early. It's the camaraderie. It's being together, and it's the seniors. That's their last football game. For a lot of them, they'll never suit up again. That's like saying your last high school game didn't mean nothing. Oh no, it means something, and there just happens to be on national television.
Mine didn't really mean anything, but that's
beside
the point.
Well, you stunk, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But grab the cheeses, have fun with it. He's having fun with his players because he's building a culture, and that's important. I love it. This was a great day. Again, they were ahead of schedule. SEC championship game first year, and he ain't even got all his guys in there. So I loved it. I love LSU having fun with it. I do love you poking fun at them because that is very nasty. I mean, but I love it. I would love to see my eat them cheeses, coach. My only question is, I wish they were the hot and spicy ones because those are the best. Hot and spicy. You don't know whether it's spice or turf. It'd be amazing.
Hot and spicy or white cheddar.
Ooh, I got hot and spicy. Hot and spicy is my favorite. I got a box in the back.
Cheddar Jack.
It's still hot and spicy, bro. I like it. I like cheddar Jack. It will always be hot and spicy. It's that seasoning. I like the seasoning, Jack. I like the seasoning. But let's segue to the NBA, Jack.
You want to talk about seasoning?
We want to talk about seasoning. I know I said Jason Tatum was gonna win MVP, but can I change it?
I'm listening.
Luka Doncic.
Bro, I have been saying on this show since week one.
Hold on. The recent tear has been insane. That's like he's been great since day one, but I still think it's tough because their record really wasn't that great, but it was still early. But good Lord, Jack. I mean, 60-point triple-double, 50 burger, 40 burger. I mean, he's amazing, Jack, and I don't think there's an answer for him. But the worst part of all of it is the Mavs still aren't going anywhere because they refuse to get him some help, but I think it's Luka's MVP this year. I think you were right.
Oh, I haven't heard that ever from you, so that was like kind of cool. The tear Luka's been on, like you said, insane. The Mavericks going nowhere. You're correct. They need to get him help, but they've also had some real big contributions from guys that haven't been into this role. Christian Wood finally put in the starting lineup was a big turnaround for them because Dwight Powell is not the guy to get it done, obviously. So they need somebody in that position, especially when you got rid of Porzingis, which to me still never made sense. I think they could have worked around it, but I think the way Luka's been playing, it's just because he got the guys around him. He's got shooters around him. Tim Hardaway Jr. was shooting insane last night. Spencer Dinwiddie came up big last night late against the Rockets. Before coming into the game, Sam, how many points do you think Luka averaged against the Rockets?
A lot.
And 42.5 points against the
Rockets stink.
Well, they do. They, to Eric Gordon's point after Saturday's loss to the Knicks, there's no improvement. They're a young team with no improvement. They were up 18 against the Mavericks last night, and they came all the way back and won. With Luka averaging almost a triple-double against a team, that's insane. It's insane. Luka has the ability I've never seen before to get to the line. He had 18 free throws last night made. If he made all his free throws last night, he would have had over 40 points again. He stunk from 3 last night. He was 1 for 9, but he was just unbelievable. Last night was a performance for the ages, but it was not as good as Donovan Mitchell.
Good Lord.
Oh, my Lord. 71 points in overtime.
Man, was cooking.
Against the Bulls.
It went to overtime, so it's not as sexy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not as sexy if you do it in regulation.
It's as sexy to 70
in regulation. He did.
It's still sexy to me. I don't care. Donovan Mitchell, he accounted for 99 points last night. That is the most since Wilt did at 100. Oh, my God. Donovan Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the brightest stars in the NBA right now. And I love watching him play. I think him going to the Cavs was a great move. And the way he's been putting on this performance is putting him in that top 3 position of shooting guards. Shooting guards.
Putting the Cavs in the top 3.
No.
Hey, middle of the pack. Hey there.
But I love the performance he put on last night. It was It was very fun to hear about. I couldn't watch because obviously I was watching Luka. So I had to hear about it. And then I went back and watched. And he's just so good. He's just so great. And there's nothing to hate about Donovan Mitchell. He's a Mets fan. He gets buckets. And he plays for the Cavs. It's just everything works out for Donovan Mitchell for me. I love it. And he reminds me of Dwayne Wade. He's 3 for 3.
He's the closest to Dwayne Wade that I've seen. That's why him and D Wade are really close. And Dwayne Wade was kind of a mentor to him. He's been on a tear this year. I feel bad. The Knicks should have never let him slip away. Him in Madison Square Garden just fit. It just fit. Can you imagine if he put 71 in Madison Square Garden, Jack? I mean, Cleveland, I think, is a better situation for him, and I think a better overall team. But I would have loved to see him in New York that more. And he wanted to be there, and it's a shame they didn't get it done. But Donovan Mitchell is here. I think people forgot what he gets into. As if he wasn't a proven playoff player. I've seen him do a lot of things when it counts the most. I don't think Utah ever failed because of him. I'll tell you that much. And I'm glad he's getting his just due. But yeah, accounting for 99.71 scored, tip your cap to Donovan Mitchell. Jack, it's that time of the show. Time to get a little weird. All right. Jack, I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah, my hit the showers is something we've already talked about. It's week 17. We got some big matchups coming in. Titans are starting Dobbs in a crucial game. Jags. Wow. The Jags making the playoffs could be a thing. Think about that. Trevor Lawrence coming to his own. I think the biggest part of this whole week is that young superstars are coming into their own. They're finally showing out. So, and I think that's great. So Trevor Lawrence coming into his own. I'm not going to call Daniel Jones a superstar, but I think he's getting into his own. He's working well in this offense. So I think it's good that late in the season, people are coming into their own. We're going to see what teams are really about coming up soon.
I 100% agree. And I know Daniel Jones isn't a superstar, but yes, he is coming into his own. And I don't think we'll know if he can or can't be till they get that number one guy there. But again, yeah, I can't wait for the playoffs too. I'm not surprised by the Jaguars because Dougie P's a Super Bowl coach. And you don't forget how to coach just willy-nilly. I think he got run out of Philly because Carson Wentz stunk and he had to take part of the rap for it. And now we're seeing why. Doug Peterson was right, wasn't he? He'd rather have Nick Foles at that point, and everybody looked at him crazy. He'd rather play Jalen Hurts, and everybody looked at him crazy. One guy's in the MVP conversation. The other guy can't keep his job over Taylor Heineke. Thank you, Dougie P, for staying true to you. And he said, I'll bounce back on my feet with the best football prospect that there's been. I'm not surprised by the Jags. I think they should even have a better record if they weren't so young earlier in the season, losing those close games. They would have easily gotten the playoffs. They're a good football team, man. Love what they're building down there in Dubai. Staying on football for my hit the showers. I think people forget how dangerous football really is, and last night was a glimpse into that. Football is a very dangerous sport, people. So I just wish we would treat our football players with more kindness and more understandingness, knowing that it's all on the line. Any given play, that can happen. I know it doesn't happen that often, but it can. There's always a possibility that it can. And I've seen Ryan Shazier. I've seen Eric LeGrand. It happens. These catastrophic injuries happen. So I just want people to understand that although the sport is for entertainment, these guys are real men, real fathers, real sons, real brothers that want to get home to their family too. And they're putting it all on the line for our enjoyment. And we need to give them their respect as well. It's a dangerous game, Jack, and it ain't for everybody. But I don't want this to also be used as something, that's why I'm not going to let my kid play football. Bull. Let your kid play football. Teach them the right way, because you can't have them go through life being scary. Because as scary as football actually is, life is that much scarier, Jack. That's all I got.
It's a good thing they got. It's a good message. I like it, Sam. That's a good way to end.
All right.